the verdict is that 25, 26 are the years where you start to grasp, where you should be grasping, where you should be seeing things and being like, okay, this is getting serious. The reality being that at this point in my life, there is no longer time to be foolish. Point blank, period. And when I say foolish, I'm talking about not learning from my mistakes. I'm talking about being wasteful with money. I'm talking about not being focused. I'm talking about not pouring into myself. I'm talking about not trying to be self-aware. I could go on. So there is time. There's time to live life, to travel. There's time to put a pause on getting married and having kids. There's time. I can do that a little bit later in my 30s, but there isn't time for me to be making silly mistakes anymore. There really isn't time either to speak down on ourselves or speak poorly of ourselves. The tongue is so powerful. I am learning that the tongue has power. So speak goodness into your life. Speak goodness about yourself. Hi community, welcome back to A Cup Full. If it is your first time listening in or tuning in, I hope you like it and choose to stay. And if you are a permanent resident of this house, I am so happy that you are back here. I'm so happy to have you here, and I appreciate you so much. So as per the title of the episode, this week I really wanted to talk about making good choices and the importance of being intentional about it. I'm in my intentional era. I hope you are trying to get into your intentional era as well, or I hope that you are in your intentional era and you are actually like being intentional and you're taking things seriously. Being deep in my 20s, I turn 28 soon. Knocking on 34. Yeah. And it has shown me two really important things: the consequences of making bad choices and the fruit of making good ones. So yeah, growing up has come with an understanding, and seeing the world from a different perspective has also come with an understanding that it's really straightforward. If I'm going to make good choices, then there will be a good outcome, and if I'm going to make bad ones, then there will definitely be a bad outcome. I've also realized that it is much easier to make good choices when I have my priorities straight and I know what my core values are. Another big thing for me right now is really being focused and really being serious about living according to the values that I say I have. So I say a value of mine is growth. What am I doing to live according to that value? I say a value of mine is credibility. What am I doing to enhance credibility in my life? And these are the kinds of things I've been asking myself lately. I've just been like, yeah, sure, you have values, or you have at least now figured out the basics, because before I can definitely confidently say I maybe had 1, 2, or 3 values and I was attempting to live by them, but not fully. I wasn't fully committed. And because of I'm trying to be intentional and I find myself in like a place where I need to be intentional, I don't have another choice. I really want to live according to the values that I've identified to be the most of the most value to me, values that are of the most value to me, values that will allow me to achieve and move forward in my life and achieve the things that I'm trying to achieve and achieve the peace that I'm trying to achieve. I need to have certain values. I need to live according to those values. I need to not be shaken or moved when this happens or that happens, because I know that this is my value. So yeah, a lot is linked to having and knowing and living by your core values. So I'm really trying to focus on that. And a lot of it I've seen with regards to the big things and small ones is in knowing what it is I actually want and what it is I'm working towards. That goes back to like that having my priorities straight. I've definitely had the idea of having my priorities straight, but not necessarily having my priorities straight. And I'm really trying to figure out how to just really stick by what I want and stick by what I'm doing and see it through completely. And this is not just this has very little to do with material things. This has a lot to do with what's happening inside of me, with my emotional state of being, with my mental state of being. A big one right now is my spiritual state of being. I've mentioned in the previous episode that I am really, really, I have gotten much closer to God, and I'm really trying to be intentional about the relationship and how I pour into it and how much I am working towards it. So I think I'm in a place where I do know what I want right now because I've given myself a chance to think about it. And now I need to remain consistent and work towards it. And again, it's easier to work towards things when you are anchored in something, when you have your priorities straight, when you have those core values and you know what they are and you are working towards them, and you're going to be working towards that. So it's really important, I'm realizing, to have things that we are anchoring ourselves in our lives, and to be serious about them and have good and healthy things that will produce good and healthy results. Now, I know the 20s are the making mistakes years and figuring things out, and I've been able to meet myself with a lot of kindness because I'm aware of this, right? However, I started realizing that at some point, especially that 25, 26 mark, that it's starting to become a crucial time. Things are shifting, things are changing. This is like a real-time preparation for the 30s. Whether you like it or not, it's the truth. The last few years of the 20s require being intentional. They require you to take yourself seriously because you are preparing yourself for a different ball game, essentially, where you will be required to be a different person, a different level of maturity. A lot of serious things are going to start happening in your life, whether it's a promotion, whether you start building a house, whether you are buying a car, or you are investing, or you are diversifying your investment portfolios, or you're thinking of starting a family, or you're trying to travel, or you're trying to start a business. These are all very serious things. Sure, you could do it in your 20s, but the maturity, the knowledge, the understanding that you would have in your 30s, that would probably be it's just going to be different. It's going to be maybe premium level. I mean, I'm not there yet, but from what I'm hearing from 30-year-olds, 30-something-year-olds, it's a different place to be in, even mentally. So you need to prepare yourself, and you need to want to prepare yourself. And at 25, 26, I started to grasp that things are a little bit different in my 20s now. I need to take myself seriously. I need to take things seriously. Time is moving very quickly. I started grasping that I don't got no more time, which means making mistakes or making poor choices can no longer be backed up by the it's my making mistakes years anymore. Between 20 and 24, between 20 and 25 still ish, you can be like those first 5 years. I feel like it's just like getting used to. Still the years where you're kind of like a baby in your 20s. You're having fun. I was making the same mistakes. Like, I was really not learning from my mistakes in my earlier 20s. I was making the same mistakes when it came to boys, when it came to friends, when it came to money choices, when it came to lacking in boundaries, like not having boundaries, not having strong enough boundaries. When it came to not recognizing certain things, not having any self-awareness. Those were really the free-for-all years in my life, and I might be the exception to the rule. We might not be experiencing our 20s the same way, but yeah, obviously we all have different experiences. It's not saying I'm the exception to the rule, but we all have different experiences, and we will all be able to tell different stories about our 20s. But what I'm seeing, the majority from conversations that I've had with quite a number of 20-something-year-olds who are my age, who are in my age group, who are sort of moving in the same direction, especially emotionally, mentally, spiritually, the verdict is that 25, 26 are the years where you start to grasp, where you should be grasping, where you should be seeing things and being like, okay, this is actually this is getting serious. The the ball game is changing. The the strategy needs to change. You know how on a soccer field, when they are playing the European Premier League, for example, each team has a strategy, and they are literally very intentional and are very serious about winning that game. That's exactly how things sort of change and become different in the later part of the 20s. You realize that you need to start preparing yourself for a different ball game, and you need to be serious about it. I did anyways. And so I realized that the one thing is that I don't have is time. And it not that I don't have time in that way, but the reality being that at this point in my life there is no longer time to be foolish. Point blank, period. And when I say foolish, I'm talking about not learning from my mistakes. I'm talking about being wasteful with money. I'm talking about not being focused. I'm talking about not pouring into myself. I'm talking about not trying to be self-aware. I could go on. So there is time. There's time to live life, to travel. There's time to put a pause on getting married and having kids. There's time. I can do that a little bit later in my 30s. But there isn't time for me to be making silly mistakes anymore. You see, and I really want to talk about that. There is no time. Y'all who is listening, if you are in your late 20s, 25, 26, I think is your mid. From 27, you are in your late 20s. There is no longer any time to not learn from your poor decision making. And I've made quite a lot of silly mistakes. We all have. I've been in a place, like I just said, where I was just not learning from my mistakes and I was making the same ones. Yeah, okay, that happened, but it's all in the past now, and I shouldn't want to be repeating it because this is different. It's a different time, and whether we like it or not, we got to take it seriously. There literally is no longer much time to blame other people or even my trauma for my poor decision making. Things like I always got hand-me-downs as a child, which is why I spend so much money on clothes. And again, I said this in the previous episode. Please go and listen to my previous episode if you haven't, on intentional living, and where I do a little bit of reflecting. But I did say that, of course, we cannot invalidate our childhood trauma or our childhood pains or our childhood experiences that have made navigating adulthood very difficult. But if you are trying to change the trajectory of your life and you have become self-aware over time, like I have done, where I've worked on myself and I continue to work on myself, it's just unrealistic, not feasible, and very ignorant of me. It would be very ignorant of me to continue to blame my poor choices, my poor decision making, me wasting money, me just being a really angry and bitter person on my childhood trauma, when I've become self-aware enough, when I've reached a point in my life where I've said I need to get help for this. You know what I'm saying? I am talking about it from that perspective, and I'm also speaking for me, where I'm saying I'm really not in a position anymore to do that because I do know better, right? I can't be maxing out an overdraft, or I can't be using my entire salary to have fun. What about saving? What about investing in buying food that is good for me, that's going to fuel my body? What about investing in a gym membership or gym equipment for at home? There's no need to be unnecessarily spending money on groove and alcohol and then wanting to justify it as harmless fun. You plan for harmless fun when you're 28 years old, because your 30s are awaiting you, right? You need to have savings. You need to have money that you're going to put towards a deposit for a car. You need to have money that you're going to put towards, if you are trying to build your own house, if you're trying to buy land and build your own house, at least have money that you're putting either towards the land that you're trying to buy or the material that you need to buy to build your house. So we also need to be very serious about holding ourselves accountable. it isn't harmless fun, you are being reckless with your money. Especially if you are not putting money aside and you want to call it harmless fun and justify it as harmless fun, but you aren't saving. Yet you claim to have goals for the future. You want to do all of these things. You want to have this beautiful wedding. You want to have these things that require you to invest in them, that require you to plan for them. We are in that stage where we are planning things. We are in that stage, if you live alone, we are at that stage, right, where you need to compare prices for food, which place is cheaper, because food is expensive, because you still need to put petrol in your car or put transport money aside. You still need to pay for rent. You still need to buy yourself clothes. You still need to buy yourself skincare. Saving, being savvy, just thinking ahead. That is the place that we're at now. My fellow late 20s knocking on 30's door. You can't go out to eat when you cannot afford it. You cannot afford to spend time with people that are depleting your spirit and clipping your wings. We are no longer in a position to be reckless with our well-being. Mental, spiritual, emotional, financial, physical. There is no longer time for any of that anymore. No time for getting so drunk and having to go through 3 days of recovery. All of that time would be gone and you wouldn't be able to get it back. I wouldn't be able to get it back. I cannot afford to do that. And neither can you. Listen. There is no harm in having a glass of wine and having 2 glasses of wine and going out for a cocktail with your girls. Having a whiskey sour at dinner and then having a glass of wine afterwards. But then call it a night. Because after 25, when that 26 clock hits, recovering from, my goodness, I'm just thinking about it now because I did it and I said to myself, never again. But recovering from a hangover is just not the same anymore. 22-year-old Tcheto could get up and keep it going and even go out the next day after having gone out 2 days in succession. But me right now, I know what my limits are. And that's another thing. It's knowing your limits and respecting your limits. Knowing your limits and respecting your limits. It's absolutely counterproductive to be drinking and then having to spend the next 3 days recovering. Again, I'm sure I've said it enough. You've probably heard me. But we are in a place where we need to be serious, where we are serious. Everyone that's in their late 20s. You're 28, you're 29, you're 27, you're 28, you're 29. You've got to be serious about your life, about your time. Value your work. You have to be productive and you have to have energy in order for you to produce the best work. And you cannot do that when you're hungover. So don't put being able to be productive at risk. Don't put your time at risk like that. There is no longer time for being okay with not having healthy and sustainable routines, such as eating well, exercising, drinking plenty of water, waking up at a specific time, and being committed to getting the day's activities done. Having a time in the day when you express gratitude. If you believe in God like myself, you would do that through prayer. Intentionally dedicating time off of your screens and doing something that requires you to spend some time alone, doing something that brings you lots of joy. There is no longer any time to not live intentionally. I'm in my intentional living era. I want it to be permanent. I don't want it to just be an era. And I'm really trying to influence everyone that is listening. Listen, even my girls in their early 20s, in your mid 20s, I'm trying to influence you to start early. Don't waste your time on meaningless things. Have a routine. If you are a student, have a time where you are waking up, where you have a timetable for your day, not just for classes, but for your day, where you're waking up, where you're stretching, even if you aren't going to the gym or you aren't doing like hectic exercises, where you're at least stretching, and where you have your breakfast. It's your own personal time, and then you know that you have a class at a specific time. You know you're going to study at a specific time. You know you're going to chill at a specific time. You know you are going to go to cell group at a specific time, or a evening church service, like whatever it is. You know that you are dedicated to shaping out your life and being intentional about your life from as early as possible. And I'm here to say it as someone who has experienced it all. A lot of the things that we put value on, a lot of the things that we put worth on, especially when you get to university, and it's exciting. In my language, the older people call it komamboni. Translated in English, it's where my mother doesn't see me. So like I have the freedom to do whatever it is that I want to. The partying, the fun. The parents also aren't lying when they say it doesn't go anywhere. It's the truth. None of it goes anywhere. When you've graduated and you start working, you are probably going to be able to afford to have even better quality fun because of you are in a better position financially, and you would probably be able to handle that fun far better because of you are mature. You are mentally mature, you're emotionally mature, you're spiritually mature, you are trying to live an intentional life, you are aligned, you are properly aligned with yourself. I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm also saying that there really isn't anything there. There's nothing exciting, there's nothing special about going to Groove every night, about having a rotation of guys you're talking to, about all the things that seem like harmless fun in university. Some of it is harmless fun, some of it really isn't. I'm not going to get into it because this isn't really the episode where I'm trying to talk about that, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. We do put value on things that are not valuable. And yeah, sound like I might sound like an annoying older sister right now, but it is the truth. And when my mom was talking about this all of these years ago, I really wasn't hearing a thing she was saying. I was like, I want the experience. I want the fun. Girl, sometimes the experience comes with scars that are going to be permanent, wounds that you're going to have to be cleaning out for the next few years because of you are just putting yourself in very difficult and strange positions. So all I'm saying is there's nothing there. I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm also saying just look at what is valuable and what isn't in your life, right? There really isn't time either to speak down on ourselves or speak poorly of ourselves. The tongue is so powerful. I am learning that the tongue has power. So speak goodness into your life. Speak goodness about yourself. There is no time either to not seek help, especially when you have access to it. And I just wanted to make a disclaimer that I'm aware that this isn't a straightforward thing to do. It really isn't a black and white thing because there are plenty of contributing factors to how a person will choose to deal with their trauma, and we won't all do it in the same way. Sometimes some people are aware of what's going on with them, or they can see or can feel that there is a problem, but it's also very terrifying to now say I'm going to go onto the other side of what has now become my comfort zone, because anger can become a comfort zone. Anger used to be my comfort zone. Bitterness can become a comfort zone. Bitterness used to be my comfort zone. And I started to acknowledge and realize things maybe when I was like 20, 24 or 25, I think. It might have been like 25 properly, just like grasping the basics of it just at the end of my year of being 24, and just like going into 25, I was starting to see things. So this that I'm experiencing, this journey that I went on, this path that I've gone on, to working on myself and to healing and growing and all of that good stuff, this was only just about 3 years ago. And I know this isn't easy. I'm aware I've been in a place where the pain is more comfortable than seeking help. The drinking is better than screaming, I need help. Or this keeping quiet about something and pretending like you're fine is better. It's what you know, it's what you've always known. So I know this isn't easy, but if you are in a position where you're like self-aware, where you have other people also pointing it out to you, you need help, you're drinking too much, you're passing out, you're throwing up on yourself, you need help, you are just like really irresponsible and you make yourself a victim, please just like give it a chance. And if you are someone that has access to therapy, to getting help, whichever other help you can get, please take that and use that. I have noticed that there are people, that are realizing, my peers, that are realizing that their childhood trauma is really showing up in their adulthood and that it is affecting their quality of life, but are doing nothing about it, even if they can. I've been in different spaces with different people. This is not a judgment zone. This is not me judging anyone. This is me simply stating a fact of something that I've realized and recognized. I think that, not even I think, I know that I have even been in that place myself where I've acknowledged, where I've realized, especially at the beginning of walking this path. And I was like, yeah, I can see this, but I'll just say sorry to this person. I'll just like be sorry, I got drunk and I passed out. I'm really sorry. And I won't seek any help. I won't, but I'm aware of what's going on, and it hasn't just happened once. You know what I mean? So if you can see that your childhood trauma is hurting you, and there are people around you that are holding you accountable, and you can also feel that there is a nagging voice inside of you that's telling you you need help, please, and you can afford it, please go and get help. I'm talking about therapy. I'm talking about being able to afford books that will be helpful on your journey, podcasts, listening to podcasts, being able to afford partaking in healing activities and retreats. We have those kinds of things now. This isn't the olden days anymore, where there aren't spaces for us to be taken care of and healed. You know what I mean? There is a podcaster who I listen to. Her name is Janelle. I forgot her surname. Lovely podcast. I think it's called To All the People. She is a Black American, and wow, just like gems. She's always just spitting facts and fire, and I just absolutely love her podcast. Please go and give it a listen if you are looking for a new podcast to try out, to listen to. It's quite fun, it's lighthearted. Of course, it gets serious, but I really enjoy it. She was talking about lymphatic drainage, and that's something that people do. It's a physical aspect of trauma release. And if you can afford to do things like that, do that. You know what I mean? This is a journey, this is work, and this is something that requires you to put effort into. So do it. If you can afford it, do it. I don't see why not. I really don't see why not. Another thing is definitely there isn't time to not have any core values, which are a huge contribution towards the kinds of choices you will make, the kind of partner and friends you choose, the things you choose to spend your time doing or not doing. You get what I'm saying? The minute I clocked that I really need to check my core values and lack of them was when I realized that a lot of it comes down to this, knowing what my values are and choosing to live by them every single day. I said this earlier on in the episode, being intentional. Damn, it's such a what? It is a very interconnected thing. My English is really not cooperating with me right now. I'm looking for a word, but I can't find it. But being intentional requires you to be present. It requires you to be serious. You need to see the value in it. You need to see it. You need to see it, period. You need to understand that it's not just something you're going to say, it's something that you're actually going to do, and it will affect a lot of the parts of your life. When you have no values, you aren't anchored in anything. You are not anchored in anything. You're just moving with the wind. Today you like this. Today you don't like this. The next day you like that. The next day you don't like that. And yeah, we're allowed to not like things. We're allowed to change our minds about things. But what's the purpose? What are you doing? What can you do when you aren't anchored in something specific or in specific things? When you do not have rules for yourself, when you do not have a particular way of being and doing things, So how are you going to know what kind of people you want in your life when you don't have the faintest idea what it is that you need, what it is that you like, what it is that you want, what it is that you value, what it is that you do not value, So these are like serious. It's serious. There also isn't any time to not being committed to unlearning things that will influence your core values. It is so important to be dedicated to unlearning the ways in which you were conditioned to think and behave, especially the things that you have realized are destructive, that are trauma, pain, and anger influenced. Like being intentional about learning new and healthier ways is one of the best things you can do for yourself in the name of making good choices and choosing better for yourself. You cannot continue to blame your reactions, your poor reactions, your lack of professionalism, your lack of being able to just have a conversation without exploding and without wanting to blame other people on the things that you have experienced. And again, I don't want to invalidate anyone's experiences when I am speaking about this, but again, we do need to hold ourselves and other people accountable. We absolutely do. It is a vital part of living in community with each other. You cannot say you respect someone and you live in community with them when all you want to do is stroke their ego and all you want to do is coddle their feelings. There really just is no time to waste because you aren't going to get any of it back. And I, for one, have realized that I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm needing to patch up the parts of myself and my life which I neglected or was wasteful with at a time that I'm meant to be focusing on something completely different. Yes, of course, have a good time, live your life fully, but don't be reckless about it. Learn from your mistakes, even if it is eventually, because I have been in a place where I only learned after the fifth time of making the same poor decision. Not my brightest moments, but make sure to learn and to not go down the same road so many times that you struggle to find your way back. And now you're dealing with trying to find your way back, and now you're dealing with this, and now you're dealing with that, when trying to find your way back could have been avoided completely, and you could have just been focusing on this and another thing that are what's supposed to be the main priorities in your life right now. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, preferably don't be like me and learn the first time around. Just learn the first time around. I also feel like making good choices is such an intimate thing to get into with yourself. It's a habit, it's a vision in my eyes. It's saying to yourself, I've got your back through and through, and I won't put your well being, peace, or happiness at risk. It's saying no to things that don't align with who you are and saying yes to the ones that do. It's not compromising on your core values to make other people comfortable. And it's most definitely being honest with yourself. Oh, 100%. Making poor choices, though, that wastes time, and time wasted is time lost. No matter what, even if you wish on all of the stars in the sky, on the moon, you can never get it back. You can never get that time back, even if you wish on it. It doesn't matter. I was listening to the podcast Wisdom Wellness hosted by Mpumi Dwaba, one of my absolute favorite wellness podcasts. And the episode was titled Make the Vision Clear. I particularly enjoyed how much she made the link between how having a vision works hand in hand with, in essence, having strong values. Knowing what it is that you want for yourself and for the life you are trying to create and build for yourself, that is important. She was saying that when the vision is clear, you are more likely to have successful outcomes no matter what it is you have created a vision for. Another thing I really appreciated her saying was how if you make poor choices and decisions for the majority of your 20s, there is a good chance that you will have to spend your 30s, or at least a part of them, being on the mend, whether it be mentally, emotionally, physically, or financially. So what we all need to be doing is prioritizing being a lot more intentional about what we are choosing for ourselves. It's so important to ask yourself, why? Like, what is the reason here? Why am I doing this? Is this going to be good for me? Does it align with my values? Also, if you find that you aren't learning from your bad choices or poor decision making, ask yourself why. What is the thing that is making me go down the same road over and over and over again? Ask yourself. As I always say, it's important to go right down to the root, so peel back all those layers. It really does help with how you will approach correcting that and putting yourself in a position or a place where you are making better choices. Do it with honesty. Don't do it in a way that's going to make you feel better. Do it in a way that is going to be good for you, period. My grandmother is always saying, Tshegetso, please don't take things for granted. And for a long time, I was really like, what is this old woman saying? What was she talking about? But now I understand. I really do. It is so easy to get lost in the source of life, because life can be good, life can be nice, life can be fun, especially to the eyes, to the flesh, to the things that we love to experience in the flesh. And when I'm talking about in the flesh, there is the flesh, there is the spirit, there is the godly way, there is the human way. And we like to indulge in the fleshly way. So that's what I mean when I say it is easy to get lost in the source of life, in the fun of it. And yeah, you should enjoy life. You should have a good time, of course. But don't be irresponsible. Don't lack accountability. In the temporary moments, you know, that we are just like enjoying in that moment alone, even if it's going to have dire repercussions, that's getting lost in the source of life. But if we're being honest about it, keeping it a buck, being for real, in the long term, the temporary moments that are fun and good and great, where you can waste your money and be reckless about your time, they're going to amount to nothing. Absolutely zero. there is there is there is really no point in indulging in things that are not going to do anything for you in the long term, especially if you're someone that is looking at the long term in your life. um yeah, I think another way to get stuck in the source of life is like in the fun of it, in the temporary moments that will in the long term amount to nothing. Things that are going to amount to nothing are things like constantly being led and being provoked by your emotions. You are losing your temper. You are being led by anger. You're being led by frustration. You are making decisions from that place. What is that going to amount to? At the end of the day, nothing. And you can't be in a place or put yourself in a position where you are forever being led by your emotions and you are forever being provoked by them to say things and do things that are going to, at the end of the day, mean nothing. That will probably have a negative impact on you. Oh, I got angry, so I hit him or I hit her. Oh, I got mad, so I told her to get out and I threw her clothes out, or I burnt her stuff. No, get a grip. Get some self-control. You cannot put yourself in a place where you're always trying to please other people. That's going to amount to nothing. If anything, it's going to make another person comfortable and you incredibly uncomfortable. Always risking your well-being, peace of mind, and safety for a good time. I'm going to go back to that conversation about really seeing what has value and what doesn't, especially to the girls that are in university. You shouldn't be getting in a car with a drunk driver. If you don't have money for an Uber, stay at home. That used to be my drive. That used to be the type of thing I used to do. I was literally risking my well-being. And I know, yeah, everybody's going to say, yes, I've done that, I've indulged in it. It doesn't make it right, though. It doesn't make it a safe thing to do. It doesn't make it a sensible thing to do. And yes, I was young, and I was silly, and I was immature. But yeah, again, if you have the chance and you have access to people and places that are telling you, think about it. What does this align with your value at all? Like, is this you making a good decision? Think about it. Are you putting yourself at risk unnecessarily? Are you putting your life at risk unnecessarily? Guys, I'm grateful for God and I'm grateful for my praying mother, because I know for sure that if I did not have the Almighty always looking out for me and my mother, who was just always praying for me, I could have easily been dead by now or paralyzed. Because some of the things I was doing, they were really dumb. And I was really risking my well-being and my peace of mind and my safety just for a good time. Same as the type of guys I was getting together with. Oh no, that was a risk on my well-being. That was a risk on my peace of mind. Just drama and just, no, it's not worth it. No, it's not worth it. It's the same as finding yourself in romantic and platonic relationships that just aren't good for you. There is no time. That is not worth it. That is going to be like, it's just, don't do it. Don't do it. It's going to amount to nothing at the end of the day. Another thing is this thing of thinking that we've got time as human beings, because we good at that. I've got time, and I was saying it earlier on. Yeah, I've got the time. I can shift getting married. I can shift starting a family, I can move those things a couple of years ahead. When I'm going to open my eyes again, it's going to be a couple of years ahead. And so that's why I'm trying to make the point of we don't actually have the time that we think that we have. You don't have the time that you think that you have to mend that relationship. You don't have the time that you think that you have when you keep delaying taking better care of yourself. You don't have the time that you think that you have to protect your purpose. Start protecting your purpose today. Stop being reckless with your purpose and just getting involved with anyone, just like inviting just anybody into your life, and just like not vetting people and not even vetting some of your own thoughts, your own decisions before you make them. There isn't time. There isn't the time that we think that we have. The time that you say that you have to fix your finances. Oh, I'm still young. Girl, I said that too when I was like 24, 23, 23, 24. And I was getting my first time where I was seeing like thousands of rands in my account that I've worked for. Just like having a good time. There isn't the time that you say you have to work through your pain. I'll do it next year. But there really isn't time. Next year's gonna be around the corner, and then what? Are you gonna postpone it again? There really isn't time. We really don't have time. We have to use it carefully in each moment that we do have it. Use it to make good choices for the you now and the future version of yourself who dreams of being at peace and living a life filled with love, peace, success, prosperity, and plenty of purpose. Do those things now and stop delaying them, and stop saying that you have the time. Time doesn't belong to anyone. You also can't buy time. It's a very precious thing, and I think it deserves a lot more respect than we tend to give it. Deserves far more respect. Yeah, I think I said my piece today. I said my piece. This is where we are ending this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was of value to you. If you did enjoy it, please give it a 5-star rating. It really helps the podcast grow and for it to reach new listeners. Please also comment and let me know what your thoughts were on this one. The Cupful is available on all listening platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts. So please tell a friend to tell another friend to tell that other friend to give it a listen. You can also find me on Instagram. My personal account is at @Tshegy_MO. That is at TSHEGE_MO. And the acupfulll one is at @A_cupfulll. That is at @A_CUPFULL. Please have a beautiful remainder of this week. Work hard when you need to. Rest just as hard when it is the time for you to do that. Nourish your body and mind. Be kind to yourself and others. Make good choices. And don't forget to keep doing the things that fill your cup.